Our business meeting is held on the last Monday of the month after the meeting, and all are welcome. Hey, really important, guys, we ask that you refrain from the use of profanity. We're in a church and on a spiritual journey, so we would appreciate that you guys contain yourself and carry this principle in your everyday lives. The church only allows for us to consume clear drinks. We just put that out there because we are on double secret probation because we had a coffee spill and we haven't gotten a reprieve from that yet. So I have asked someone to read the preamble.
Hi, I'm Jess, an alcoholic.
Hey, Jess.
Yes. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is this anyone's first time at an AA meeting? Is this anybody's last time at an AA meeting? Okay. Are there any visitors from out of town or anyone at this meeting for the first time?
Yeah, Chris, alcohol.
Hey, Chris, thank you for coming.
Laura's alcoholic.
Laura, thank you for coming.
Julian, alcoholic.
Julie, thank you for
Liv, alcoholic.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay. Would anyone like a phone list? Okay. There you go. Okay, Jason, we'll get that started. I guess we'll keep it to men. Okay. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Anybody?
I got one. My name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jason.
Right after this meeting, 7:30, there's an Al-Anon meeting. If you've never been to an Al-Anon meeting, it's good to stick around and check it out. It's hosted by Mrs. K. So.
That's Ron Kay's wife that holds it together. So, is there anyone celebrating an AA anniversary this month?
My name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic again. I just celebrated 11 months 2 days ago.
All right. You got a minute. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's for you. All right. Keep that in a good, safe spot. All right. I've asked someone to read how it works. Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
My name's Gary. I'm an addict. Today I have 60 days.
Good job. Anybody else?
Congratulations, brother. Well done.
Thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate being on the ball. All right.
We got one more.
You got one?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, right here for Steve.
Steve?
Yeah, Steve.
I know who you are.
2 months, 2 days ago.
Whoa! Okay.
Way to go.
Good job. Awesome. Anybody else? I've asked someone to read how it works.
I'm Liv. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Liv.
Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault, they seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power, that one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing, we stood at the turning point, and asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could ever relieve their alcoholism. And C, that
God.
Couldn't would it be yourself?
Thanks, just appreciate reading.
Thank you for reading.
Thank you for reading. Our 7th tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We will now pass the basket. This is a weekly literature or step meeting. Our format is as follows. The speaker is asked to talk no longer for 30 minutes. He or she uses their time on qualifying themselves and speaking on a composition from the big book, okay, or the step of that week, followed by group shares, discussions, and questions until 7 p.m. We then end the meeting with either the Lord's Prayer or the Serenity Prayer, whatever the speaker chooses. You can find our past weekly meetings. There are actually recordings on a YouTube page called the Stay Alive Literature and Step Group Meeting. We ask that you subscribe and share. This brings us to the speaker portion of our meeting on today, Monday, July 27th, 2026. I'm ahead of myself. At the Doylestown, PA, at the Monday night, 6 p.m., the Stay Alive Literature and Step Group Meeting at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. This next speaker has been in my life for a while now. I like watching anybody that's a third of my age really come through the program, and that's this guy. The guy, he's been a real inspiration to me. This is the 3rd time that he's spoken at our meeting here, so I want to give you a great round of welcome for Connor.
Thanks, guys. My name's Connor. I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date. My sobriety date's August 10th, 2024, so I'm about 2 weeks to the day shy of 2 years sober. I have a sponsor. His name is Josh. Josh also has a sponsor. His sponsor's name is Nick. I have a home group. It's the Chalfont speaker meeting, Sunday nights, 7:30, down the street. I take service commitments whenever I can through that meeting and through other people. Whenever Gary reaches out, I'm happy to be here, come here and speak for him. I grew up right here in Doylestown, about 10 minutes down the street. If I plug the address into my childhood home, it's probably 8 minutes away, maybe tops. My mom still lives there today. Grew up in a pretty standard household. I had both my parents, a younger brother, younger sister. We grew up pretty well off. Both my parents worked really hard to give us a life that the two of them didn't really have when they grew up. And if you ask them how I was, as a young kid, they probably, my dad always described me as a sweet kid, because I was just very empathetic. I was willing to talk to people. I always helped other people, played with everybody. I never really had a mean bone in my body. Then I discovered free will around the time I was 13, and that was when my first real addiction kicked in, which was doing whatever I wasn't supposed to be doing and nobody finding out about it. That was the first rush for me, was doing something I wasn't supposed to do, lie about it, no consequences came, and it's all of a sudden I was that felt good. Okay, so I can do this, and there could be something bad that happens, but there might not be. That was the first real adrenaline rush, dopamine rush that I chased. And when you get into that, in middle school, stuff follows with that, right? Smoking weed, drinking your first beer, whatever it may be. And I always had a lot of friends growing up, but I always felt like if there was like 3 of us in a friend group, I always felt like the third friend, like that person that wasn't a part of the actual friendship. I was just there by whatever proximity. I was close by. They wanted to come to my house. I never felt like I was a core member of any of the friend groups that I had. And, I think that was the first part of me trying really hard to fit in. I felt like I had to work harder to be funny. I had to work harder to be cool. I had to work harder to talk a certain way, dress a certain way, walk a certain way, whatever it was. And, starting to fill that hole, right? You introduce like weed and alcohol to it. I smoked my first joint, and all of a sudden I'm not trying that hard to be funny. Everything's just funny naturally, right? And I started drinking, and like all of a sudden, like I don't have to try hard to be cool. Just being there drinking a beer makes me cool. Makes me feel like I'm finally not the third friend. Like I'm the one in the middle of the room, all this eyes on me. I just like the attention of it. And I didn't kick off right away with it, but when you mix alcohol and drugs like into the equation with me, my decision making gets poor because I have an alcoholic mind, which means like for me, I'm wired to justify, rationalize, or minimalize any decision that I ever make. I can do something horrible, like use your worst imagination, and I can either justify it and say I was righteous in doing it. I can rationalize it and say, well, if they did it, then I can do it. Or I can minimalize it and be like, well, it's probably not the worst thing that's ever happened, right? I can do that with anything. And it's really scary when you start, getting a license and you meet some older people and you start doing more of these things. And my decision making got terrible. And, around the time I was 15, I made like my first real mistake. I grew up like in a childhood without consequences. My parents rarely punished me. If they did, I just didn't believe in him. I never suffered any. And when I was 15, I made a mistake. Me and 2 of my friends heard some story at a party about some dude, made a decision. We jumped that person, beat him down pretty good, and we all got charged with aggravated battery. And I wound up getting arrested for it and sent away to my first facility, I guess you could call it. I wound up spending 10 months at McKinley Hall in Glen Mills. And when you come from an area like this where not a lot of people kind of go through that, that's like an eye-opening experience. Being somewhere where at least people like I shouldn't say it like that, where people enjoy that type of behavior, where it's encouraged to be aggressive, to be violent, to act out. And yeah, I acted out, but I was never like built like that. So like, coming home from that, now this unchecked ego, this building up to this alcoholic personality is out of control. They put me on an ankle monitor, supervision, whatever, and I was like the coolest thing ever. I'm walking around a school. I'm the only kid that's been arrested. I got an ankle monitor on. I'm like putting it up on my desk, showing it off, bragging about it, doing all this stuff. And it was just ridiculous behavior. Like I wasn't raised to behave that way. It was just my unchecked ego. Like I really do have an ego the size of Texas, and if I don't keep it in check, it'll grow to the size of the planet. It really just is that big. I wound up like getting in trouble in school some more, and the best way I can describe it, I was in a guidance counselor's office. And she's like looking at me, and I'm mouthing off. I got my foot up on her desk, and she was like, dude, I don't know like who I'm talking to. Am I talking to a kid that like wants to take like honors classes, or am I talking to the kid that's got an ankle monitor on? It's like 2 different personalities. Like even my parents said it, that around them I was just like this one person, and then you put me in the right group of people, and all of a sudden I'm talking different, I walk different. I was like a chameleon. I changed who I was to fit in with the people that were around me. If that involved drinking and drugging, I did that. That involved being good at schoolwork, I did that. Whatever it took for me to feel a part of something. And alcohol and drugs made the social part of that easier for me. I did well in high school. My grades stayed up despite all the nonsense I got into. And, I played lacrosse too. I played in high school. I played in college. I played a little bit after college too. And coming down to the end of high school, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to find an opportunity at a school where all I had to do was focus on lacrosse and partying, where I could just be the guy on the field, be the coolest guy off the field. That's what I wanted, and I threw away some opportunities to go to like a smaller school that made all these promises to me, and I just wanted to cultivate this environment with no accountability. I liked the idea of not being watched, of not being held accountable to my actions, to my thoughts, to anything like that. Like that's just what I wanted. It was a bad decision. All the infinite wisdom I had of what I was doing, where my behavior was leading, I'd seen some consequences, and I was just like, yeah, I don't care. Graduate high school, I get my first DUI. I have 4 of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I got my first DUI after high school. And again, now I'm in a position where I can't talk my way out of it. I'm in trouble legally. I was 2 or 3 weeks from going to college, and all of a sudden my parents come to me and they're like, we're not sending you to college, dude. You're out of control. You're drinking every day. You're doing this. You're doing that. You've just got a felony DUI. Like, why would we send you to college? And one key factor of my story, and I think it's something that a lot of us alcoholics have, is that we always have the best intentions, right, with our lip service. Like, I am really good at using my words to get what I want, but my intentions are quite what I say, right? Like, I have good intentions, but the intentions still protect my character defects. They protect my ability to get drunk and get high and do what I want to do. And I fed them this whole story about how college was my future and education, and I'll go there and I'll focus on school. I'm only 3 hours away. Come see me whenever you want. I'll call you every other day. I'll call one of you. I'll touch base. And somehow I convinced them, or at least I believed I convinced them to let me go to school. And I go to college, and it's the first time where I realized, like, I can kind of, like, do whatever I want and not go home and try to, like, concoct some lie or some story about whatever I was doing. It's just unchecked behavior all the time. And very quickly in college, with that lack of supervision, I became an everyday drinker. I became a blackout drinker. I began to act without regards to who got hurt, what got done, or whatever. I was able to just shield myself with these character defects and justify and rationalize myself and build this persona of this athlete, party boy, whatever. Like, if you guys remember, like, the Johnny Manziel era, like, I legitimately thought I was Johnny Manziel playing lacrosse at a small private college, which is just absolutely absurd. I walked around, I thought I was the coolest thing ever, and I really just wasn't. I was just a complete moron and made a lot of bad choices. And alcohol and drugs does this weird thing to us, right? It takes away all of our ambitions in life. I did really well in science classes. My mom has a master's degree in chemistry. My dad has a master's degree in mathematics. I always figured I'd wind up in one of those fields. When I first went to college, I went in there planning to cure cancer. I was a double major in biochemistry, molecular biology. I had the grades to back it up, standardized testing, this and that. And I found out very quickly you can't do that if you want to party. There's a lot of outside of the classwork that has to get done in those types of degree fields. So very quickly, like, that ambition went away, right? And I started changing my major to find things where it's less class load, less labs, less time in the classroom, more time to myself, less supervision, easier to understand. And that's, like, not knocking any degree field. That's how I looked at it. I just wanted more time to do what I wanted to do, and being in a science, like, STEM field, like, didn't offer me that. I changed everything I wanted to do. I lost all this ambition. Instead of going to Providence or going to Penn State, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this small private liberal arts school where, like, nobody knows me. Nobody can contradict anything I say. Nobody can call me out on my behavior because they don't know me. I'm just going to be what I want to be. And over that first year, I think I left that first year, my GPA was, like, just below a 2.0. Just a fun fact, the NCAA eligibility GPA is 1.8. You only need that to play. I don't know how many people know that, but I was, like, at a 1.9, and I was like, cool, I'm eligible to play next year. I don't care. Come home that summer, catch a second DUI. Now all of a sudden it's, like, different, right? ARD's out the window, this and that, and I did the same thing that I always do. I just used my words to convince my parents that things were going to get better. And anytime I did this, like, and I'll talk about it a couple times in my story, but my intentions weren't for it to get better, for me to stop drinking. It was for me to continue doing what I was doing, but do it better, without consequences, without getting caught, without causing damage. And that's, through the process of working the 12 steps and trying to live every day in 10, 11, and 12 where I'm at now, that's impossible for someone like me. I can't do this without hurting other people, without damaging the environments I'm in, without ruining relationships. And they agreed to it. I'm going back to school. The school at this point, like, doesn't want me to live on campus. They're like, you're a menace. You're in trouble all the time. We don't want you in the dorms. So my parents, they bought me a house out there. They bought me a house. They put me and 4 of my roommates in it. And now now I got my own castle to be the king of, right? Anything I want to do, I'm doing it. This is my house. That's not true. My parents owned it. They had a mortgage on it. They were paying all the money. I just lived there. And it just got worse, right? I stopped going to class. I keep drinking more and more. I'm still getting in trouble. I wind up getting thrown out of that school at the start of my second semester of my sophomore year. lit like a part of that house on fire. Wasn't like crazy, but it was bad enough to warrant some like serious consequences and swift action from the school to send me home and my parents to take away any privilege that I had. And I come home again and I do the same thing again. I give them all this lip service about going to Bucks County Community College for a semester, picking my GPA back up, going back to school, dropping lacrosse, dropping the drinking, and none of it was true. Like, I wanted my life to get better, but I just wanted to keep doing what I was doing without consequences. And that's something that I learned through this process, for me, because I only want to speak about myself. I got sick of consequences long before I got sick of myself and the own stories I told myself, the own rationalizations, the justifications, all that stuff I was fine with. I was just sick of consequences first. Around this time, I start going in and out of rehabs and detoxes, trying to like prove my point, because I run away. That's my MO. I don't like the situation I'm in. I feel like I'm being wronged. I don't like the people I'm around. I'll disappear. Detox, rehab, whatever it is, outpatient. I've been to 19 inpatient rehabs before this one finally caught some legs. And, I kind of get through that summer semester at Bucks County Community College with like two weeks at detox. I'm in an outpatient program. I'm in therapy, and I got my GPA up high enough. And then with all the infinite wisdom I'm gathering about alcoholism, I decide I'm going to go to Temple and live in North Philly and do that. So I moved down there. I pick up other substances at this point in time, the other forms of alcohol. Use your imagination with that. And it was terrible. I'd switched my major so many times. The only thing I could really carry over there was my gen eds, and I basically wound up spending like 4.5, almost 5 years getting like a 4-year degree. I still finished school barely. I think I graduated with like a 2.3 GPA, and I did it. Like, I did it because I wanted to prove. For some reason, I thought getting that degree would prove to my parents I wasn't as bad as I really was. That I could, even though I was proving it to myself, hiding behind that, like, look, I'm still finishing school. Forget about the arrests. Forget about this and that, the rehabs. I got the degree, barely, and I thought that was it. And I moved home, and I don't have any ambition, right? At this point, I'm already a convicted felon. Nobody's going to touch me in that career field. And I just decided, like, I'll get a labor job. I'll start building patios. People that build patios drink. It's socially acceptable. I'll curate this life where the people around me encourage my own behavior, so I don't feel like what I'm doing ostracizes me from the people I'm around. I'll be around those types of people, and I'm still going in and out of rehab pretty frequently at this point, because anytime something negative happens, I just decide to run away. That's what I do. And I'm getting a taste of AA here and there. I'm really, really good at rehab. You can put me into any rehab, and within a week, I'll be the president of the community. I'll quote the big book. I'll quote how it works. I'll talk about how bad I want it, and like within 10 days, they'll be like, "Yeah, dude, be the president of the community." And I can sit there and give people all this great lip service. It's just like a real talent of mine, but I couldn't back it up ever. Never could back it up, because I didn't want to. I didn't want to stop drinking. I just wanted the consequences to stop. Like I said, I got sick of the consequences long before I got sick of myself and all the crap that came with me taking me wherever I went. I wind up in 2020, maybe the end of 2021. I go to one of these fancy rehabs up in Poconos, Pocono Mountain Recovery Center. And this was the first time I kind of was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I'm approaching like 25 years old. I got nothing going for me. I'm working dead-end labor jobs. I'm bouncing between my parents' house. Just, if my dad kicks me out, I go to my mom and tell her how everything's going to change. And I live there for a month, and she kicks me out. I go right back to my dad, tell her how everything's going to change, then he kicks me out. Then I get an apartment for 3 months. I get evicted. I go back to rehab. I just lived in this cycle of constant carnage, constant turmoil. Nowhere ever felt like home, because I just kept moving around. Because that was the easiest way for me to like run away from these things that made me feel bad, that made me like brought self-pity out of me. And instead of wanting to do anything about it, I was like, if I just like disappear, no contact, 21 days, everything will be better. Like, I thought that was the solution. Rehab was transactional. I get arrested, go to rehab, tell the courts I went to rehab. Parents kick me out, go to a detox for a week, come back, everything's better. I went to this meeting on the way home, make up a name, tell them the story I heard, whatever it may be, just to push all that to the side, because I just couldn't face it. I didn't have the courage and the honesty and the willingness that I have now to face these types of things. So I'm in Pocono Mountain Recovery Center. I'd been in like a couple recovery, more than a couple. I'd been in some recovery houses before, but those were always like home plans for me, whether it was like getting out of jail or getting out of rehab. I would just be like, yeah, I'll go to this recovery house. I'm there for a month, get a couple paychecks, boom, gone. That was just what I did. And, they mentioned sober living. I had a really good connection with the therapist there, and she was like, why don't you just go and give it a shot? Like, just give it a try. And I wind up coming to Lansdale, a place called the Virtue House. And it was the first time I, felt like other people were working to make me feel like a part of something. Like, they really, a lot of those guys liked me. I was getting honest kind of for the first time with some things, not with everything. And things started to click. I got a sponsor, but I didn't really do any step work. I was just kind of like, well, I need a sponsor to get off blackout, so I'll do it. Everybody else is doing it. And then it was like, all right, yeah, I'll go to a meeting 5 times a week because everybody else is doing it. It wasn't still because I wanted to. I'd almost lost all my excitement or whatever, my energy for recovery in that rehab stay in that 28-day period. I got home from that and I was kind of there. It felt cool. I was more into making friends and meeting people. I met somebody there, my sponsor, Josh, and I lived at that house together. That was where I met him. And I think I stayed sober for 97 days, which was the longest I'd been sober in my entire life after picking up drugs and alcohol for the first time. And I left. I don't know. Something came over me. I decided I wanted to drink. I didn't pick up the phone, right? That phone weighs 1,000 pounds when it needs to be picked up, but when it doesn't, it feels like a feather. And I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't call anybody. I just drank. I went to my dad's house. I drank a bunch, came home, and I wouldn't say I got away with it because I know now, talking to them about it, they pretty much had me dead to rights off the rip. But I drank for about a week in that house, and I leave that house and I go on this 2-year run in Conshohocken, and I wind up living down there with a friend who's also an addict, and it's shameful. I lived like an animal. I started, I was suffering from a lot of the physical consequences of drinking. I was having problems with my heart. I'm having problems with my eyes, problems with my stomach, problems with my bowel movements. I spent the last 5 months living there. This is kind of funny, so you guys are welcome to laugh at it, but I would it's also not, but I would pee in a Home Depot bucket in my room and then just throw it out the window just so I didn't have to leave. I did that for 5 months because that just felt normal. It felt easier to hide away in this room and do that. That's what I did. I was peeing myself almost every night. I'm drinking a blackout. I can't tell you how many hit and runs I've gotten away with, probably close to at least 20 that I can remember. And all these things just kept happening, and over this 2-year period, I never wanted to stop. I just accepted this is who I am. All of the ambition of living a life of anything, of any type of variety went away. This was my life. As long as I could get home and drink every day, I was confident. I was happy with that. And I wind up being down there. I pick up my most recent DUI, and now it's over. It's over. It's the 4th one. I'm hosed. My family wants nothing to do with me. I lose my job. It was bad. It was the lowest and the darkest I ever felt. And I've had rock bottoms before. We've all had them, but there's always something under that if you want to keep digging. There really is. I kept digging and digging and digging, and this was the moment. And, I spent about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks after that DUI, just I'm suicidal when I'm in active addiction. I don't want to linger on that too much. I don't know where everybody is with that, but I don't want to live. I just want to drink. I forget which one of the two he talks about it in the doctor's opinion, but living to drink and drinking to live, that is me to a T. That's what I did, and I just decided I was going to drink until I died. That was the decision I made, and I tried my hardest, but I didn't quite get there. My roommate, at the time just was like, yeah, dude, you're dying. You're going to die here. I'm not going to let that happen. And in a brief moment, a brief God moment, a moment for him, a moment for me, he called my mom, and she came and picked me up, and she was like, what are we going to do about this, dude? Because you can't stay at the house. You can't go to your dad's house. I don't want you around your brother and sister. I don't want you around anything that has to do with our family. And I did what I always did. I ran away. I was like, I'll go to rehab again. And I wind up going to Malvern at Willow Grove. This is my 10th stop there between inpatients and detoxes, so they know me pretty well. And I went to Audenzia on a Friday. They're like, we'll take you on Monday, this and that. My mom looked at me and was like, can you just not drink for 2 days? And I was like, no, That can't happen. I'm going to get sick. Not going to happen. I'm drinking if I'm going to rehab. Like, I'm showing up hammered. That's just how I am. And I drank for those 2 days. I drank on the way to rehab. I wind up in this rehab, sleep it off for a couple days, and I did what I always did. You know, sit in the front row, quote the big book, quote the doctor's opinion, do all this stuff. And somewhere around like a week, you know, I wasn't using my like first phone time because I didn't have anyone to call. Nobody wanted anything to do with me, and I needed to talk to somebody. So I kind of like went through my phone in my counselor's office, got some numbers, and the number that stuck out to me was Josh's. I was like, maybe I'll call him. He knows what I'm going through. You know, he's a chronic relapser too. And I called Josh, and I told him who it was. I told him where I was, and he just cut me off right away and was like, I'm so happy for you. I love that you're there. I love you. You're going to need a sponsor, so I'm going to be your sponsor now. And then he hung up the phone, and I was like, all right. Well, now what do I do? And I was like, I guess I got to give this a shot because part of me is like ego-driven. Like, I want to prove to Josh I can do it the way he did it. So I dive into it like in rehab, right? I get through the rest of this rehab stay. They're like, where do you want to go? I'm like, sober living, Lansdale. They're like, cool. We got a spot for you. Sunlighted Spirit, SOS. We'll send you to 99 Laurel Lane. I land there, and then I get all the paperwork for my DUI. 4 charges on it. One's a 4th offense. The other 3 are 3rd offenses. And I'm like, all right, now I'm over it. Now I want to die again. Now I have no motivation to do this. And, you know, I spent a couple months just kind of BSing it with Josh. Like, I'd meet him. I'd talk to him. I wouldn't really read the book. I wouldn't really do step work. I was going to meetings, and all of my old character defects, like, crept back up into me. Where, like, now I'm not doing my chore. I'm not making my bed. I'm argumentative. I'm resentful. I'm lying. I'm just doing whatever I can to fly under the radar, get to this court date, and go to jail. And you know, that's when I sat with Josh and I just told him that. I got honest and I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be sober. I don't want to do this. I'm going to prison for like the next 5 years anyways. Who cares? And he offered me like this ultimatum. He was like, all right, well, if that's what you want to do, where are we going to drink? I'm paying for it, and you have to drink in front of me because I need you to prove that you actually don't want to do this to me. And I was just like, all right. Well, that kind of sucked. Like, that hurt. Like, because I love Josh. I tell him every time I hang up the phone, I love you. He tells me he loves me. And it's just, he's been so great in my life. And it was this moment where I was just like, all right, fine, I'll do it. If I got nothing else, I have this. And that's what he told me that night. He was like, if you have nothing in your life, if you're telling me you have nothing, I can tell you that you can still have a relationship with God. And that's going to bring you the other parts of life that are going to make it worth living. And he basically ran me through steps 1, 2, and 3 right there in that car. He was like, if you drink tonight, you're proving you're powerless over the next drink. You're proving that you are an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. You're proving that you have a resentment towards God and that maybe we can start to work on coming to believe in God. And, you know, you're proving this 3rd step that you want to take your will back. You want to do what Connor wants to do. You don't want to do what God wants for you because what if you don't go to prison? He said it to me, and I just argued. I was like, I'm gonna go. There's no problem. And he eventually talked me into just coming back to his house and reading the doctor's opinion with him. And from there, I just dove into step work. And I worked through the 12 steps, but we're here to talk about step 6. So I want to spend like the last 5 minutes or so I got really talking about step 6. There's a couple people here that know me. If you know me, step 6 and 7 are my 2 favorite steps in this whole program, right? All that time we spend asking, why am I like this? How am I like this? What makes me like this? It's 6 and 7. It's your character defects. It's the flaws in our character, right? And there's a couple key points with this, right? The first point being this, willingness over perfection. None of us are ever going to be perfect at it, right? It's about being willing to identify these character flaws and being willing to work on them. Like, I'm not perfect. Every night when I sit down and do my nightly inventory, there's some moment in my head where I got short with someone and maybe I'm starting to build a resentment towards someone at work, where I did something that was self-centered, whether it was like moved somebody's laundry out of the washer into the dryer so I could wash my laundry and did it like that instead of just going to ask someone. Even if they don't care, the more spiritual thing would have been to go ask them. And, you know, that's that first part, right? And it's about not being perfect. Like, you can revisit all of these steps all the time. I'm doing another 4th and 5th step. This will be my 4th one in 2 years because I sit on things. No matter how willing I am to identify that I'm resentful and I'm angry and I have this weird temper with me, I'll tell people like, oh, it's not bothering me that much. And I'll say that for 4 months and then all of a sudden it's bothering me. And people are like, well, what's going on? And it bothered me back then, right? You know, and one of the next, and this is probably like the biggest part for me was step 6, is separating those flaws from self, right? My character defects don't define me as a person. They stick out more in my head because they are the things that make me, pity myself. They're the things that make me angry at myself. And in my twisted, maladaptive way of thinking, the worst of the worst in my life is always going to outweigh the best of the best, right? Especially when I'm alone behind a closed door at night. Like, that's just how I am. I start to ruminate on these things, and I have to work every day to understand that I have these character flaws, but they're just opportunities for me to work on them. Be willing to identify them, be willing to move into action. I believe that we all have a pause button in our life. We're able to find that pause button whenever something's happening, whether it's a self-centered action, a resentful action, we're about to say something stupid, we're about to do something that's not spiritual. I believe we all have that pause button, and we can see it, but we don't always hit it. We just sometimes go right over it, and we kind of act out. But that's the beautiful thing about these steps is, like, that night, if you're at that point, with 10, 11, and 12, you can sit down, put it on a nightly inventory, talk about that with your sponsor, and address that character defect, right? Kind of the third part of, like, step 6, I guess, is like that roll into step 7, right? It's that moving from identifying it and, like, willingness into, like, the action part, right? In step 7, we humbly ask God to remove these character defects, right? In step 6, we become willing to ask God to remove these character defects. And God plays a part in it for sure, but it's still on us, right? Like, God doesn't reach his hand down and stop me from texting a hateful message to someone. But if I can combine all those parts, right? If I can be willing to identify my own character defects and I can label them, build on that self-knowledge I got in 4 and 5 when I wrote out that inventory and sat there and addressed what the character defect was in that situation and what the spiritual principle I should have practiced was. If I can take that and I can combine that with moving into action and being able to start to find that pause button, I don't have to do it every time, but if I start to do it more and more, that's evidence-based practice that I'm getting better at this and I'm becoming a better person as the days go by. And like I said, I'm never going to be perfect at it. Like, this is a race that doesn't end. I'm never going to be perfect at it. There's Chris is here. Chris lived with me. He's seen me in action plenty of times when my character defects get out of control. And it's just about being willing to revisit this step and understand that at any point in my day, I can be practicing any combination of these 12 steps at all times. But 6 and 7, I hold close to my heart because, there's a book out there called Drop the Rock. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe some of you haven't. Buy it, read it, learn it. That book changed my life and will change yours. And it really taught me what 6 and 7 were, and I kind of hope that I was able to kind of portray what I view with that right there. But I think that's all I got.
Good job, man. Thank you so much. We come to the part of the meeting where we open up the floor to shares, discussions, questions. Limit your time to 3 minutes. Try to keep your conversation to the literature or the step. 6, if you feel like drinking or if you've had a drink today, please stay around after the meeting so you can speak to someone. So we're going to open up the floor.